we have breaking news, also out of Washington, D.C. Roger Stone, one of the president's longest-serving political advisors, longtime friend of the president, has now been found guilty on 7 counts of lying to Congress and tampering with a witness. This is a spinoff of Robert Mueller's investigation. He's now facing up to 20 years in prison. Roger Stone to be sentenced in February. A lot to talk about, breaking news during the impeachment hearings, and we have a roundtable here to go over all of it. Chris Christie, former governor of New Jersey, now an ABC contributor. Rahm Emanuel, former mayor of Chicago, White House Chief of Staff for President Obama, also ABC contributor. CEO for Democracy for America, Yvette Simpson, welcome to you. Barbara Comstock, former Republican member of Congress who served as chief counsel for the House Government Reform Committee during President Clinton's impeachment. White House correspondent for the New York Times, Maggie Haberman. Welcome to all of you. Let's start with the impeachment hearings. Rahm, let me begin with you. You served in the House. How did your former colleagues do?
I think all the colleagues. I think that the Democrats did a very good job in making sure that the facts, piece by piece, step by step forward, got laid out. And I think that the Republicans actually, I think there were 2 parts. By the second day, they were actually following the script they were supposed to do, be respectful. And obviously the president messed it up. So I would say that both parties, but in this situation, you got kind of the Jets and the Sharks already set up. And it's already been divided like that.
That's clearly, I mean, they were divided going into the hearings. Right. They seemed divided coming out. But Chris Christie, one of the things we did learn this week is that we expected there not to be any news during the hearings. But in fact, on the first day, we learned about this new witness to Ambassador Sondland's conversation with the president. And of course, on Friday, President Trump's tweets. So things can happen during these hearings that have the chance of changing the dynamic.
Yeah, I think things can happen, but I don't think they did change the dynamic or change the needle. Listen, for those people who support the president, they're not offended by this conduct. They're saying this is consistent with who he is and who we elected.
Attacking the ambassador?
Yes. This is who Donald Trump is, George. And anybody who thinks that this isn't who he is, that's who he's been all along. Substituting the ambassador this week, figuring any other tweets that have gone on over the past 3 years nearly of his presidency now, and you see a rather consistent pattern. When somebody's making his life difficult, he makes their life difficult. That's the way he is. So for what I'm saying is, for people who don't like him, this offends them even more and gets them even more angry. For the people who support him, they say, well, this is the guy we elected. This is the way he was. I mean, remember, on Access Hollywood weekend, he attacked Bill Clinton, right? So we're now going to be surprised over this? I mean, it's more the same.
The Republican strategy going into Friday was supposed to be Ambassador YOVANOMTCH, which is a sideshow, not important, not relevant. She was front and center after that tweet.
Yes, and that was a huge mistake, I think, by the president, and it obviously sidelined, what the Republicans had intended to do. So they spent a lot of their time. I think almost every one of the members lauded her for her treatment. In particular, Congressman Will Hurd read out all of her awards and everything. So I think the witnesses really won the week. I don't think there was particularly impressive questioning or anything on either side, but I did think the witnesses came through very impressive.
It is true, though, that one of the points that Chris is making right here is that and Rahm made as well, that it doesn't seem like anything is going to change the minds of those members on the committee.
Well, why would they, right? The Republicans have nothing to lose by stonewalling, right? If you're already on this side of Trump at this point, why would you defect at this point? And there's no burden on them. This is my, my big issue is the Democrats are being asked to pull out, rabbits out of hats, and the Republicans have no duty to ask for truth, to try to get witnesses, to try to get evidence. They can do absolutely nothing and say that the Democrats did not meet their burden, and I think that's unfair.
Maggie, you covered
that's what this is. When you're in the majority, you have the burden.
This is no, that's not true. This is their congressional duty, and they should be seeking truth. And if they have not been compelled by what they've heard over the last 2 days,
but they are in the model of the Clinton impeachment, where the president's party is defending him.
This impeachment is, we all use the metaphor and an analogy of Nixon and Clinton. I actually think we have to rejigger it. Right. This impeachment hearing with all the witnesses is more about McCarthy. And go right back, yes, because you have career people, and you have their entire reputation, professional reputation, being destroyed by both the Republicans and, most importantly, by the President of the United States.
And then smearing someone is not the impeachable offense.
No, but that's why those hearings are the analogy. We use, everybody has, Nixon and Clinton impeachment hearings as the juxtaposition. You have to go back, in my view, and it's not an accident with Roger Stone, Roy Cohn, this president is not a lineage out of Richard Nixon, is a lineage out of Joe McCarthy.
I want to bring Maggie in on this one, and I'll go back to the Clinton analogy. Clinton was actually talking to Jake Tapper on CNN about this week. He was able to compartmentalize during the impeachment hearings back in 1998, and his approval rating went above 60%. That is just not what President Trump, he's probably tweeted 20 times this morning.
It's not what he does. It's not who he is. I think the governor's point was dead on, which is this is who Donald Trump is. Nobody should be surprised by this. One of the things we've heard since this inquiry began is the White House is going to try to effect a more organized war room. There's going to be a better effort to try to get everyone on the same page. Here's the message. There needs to be a better message coming out of the White House.
So war room of one.
Correct. And now it's become a war room of a couple of added bodies, and it's made very little difference. In fairness to these new hires that the White House has made, there's nobody who can get the president to stay on message, stay on the track that they want him to. That tweet really upset a lot of his advisors on Friday. They were not planning for it. They did not want him to do it, and they knew that it was going to have a really negative effect for him. And look, I don't know what the durable effect will be, but certainly that day it was not good for him.
Well, and that gets to the question, Chris. I mean, you're right. This is clearly in character for the president. One of the things we saw this week. But is it a smart strategy? Is there any way to get a different kind of strategy going out of the White House?
No and no.
It's not a strategy.
No and no. It's first of all.
Yeah, you dressed it up by saying it's a strategy.
It's not a smart strategy to do this because of all the reasons that everybody just talked about around the table, which I won't repeat. And is it possible only if the president decides that he wants to do something differently? And I don't see any evidence that he does. You remember, he believes that the reason he got what he considers a good result in Mueller is because he never let up on it. He was calling it a witch hunt from the beginning. He was attacking Mueller and the people around him, the 13 angry Democrats. We remember all those things. He believes that was a successful approach, and he's going to take exactly the same approach this time. Because for two reasons. One, because he thinks it worked the last time, and two, because that's who he is. And this is not me defending it, but you know, I grow weary of people like sitting here in wonder.
But he does think that
watching
this is something that the Clinton administration did. I think he thinks impeachment helped Bill Clinton, and he thinks it's going to help him. I don't think impeachment ever helps anybody. I think if you look at the 2000 election,
well, him and his heart
I think he really doesn't.
He can't want to.
No, he doesn't want to be impeached.
No,
I think he can talk himself into thinking that there is a possible political benefit to him down the road, but he is not enjoying this. And there's been lots of sort of happy talk coming out of people who have been around him saying, yes, he sees this as a good thing. He does not.
I could tell you for sure,
right,
that he is not enjoying any part of this. He's angry about it. And, you know, what you see in these tweets is an expression of that anger.
And he's not serving himself. Like, he's not helping himself. I agree. When Marie Yovanovitch was prepared to testify, I thought it would be a quiet day, right? She wasn't, you know, a key part of the July 25th hearing. She was talking about her termination. And then he goes and tweets and intimidates her, and it becomes the story. And now imagine next week when you get
the economy,
his biggest fear
at its highest on Friday.
You got that tweet, too.
If you watch him over the trajectory, his biggest fear is that he gets exposed. That's what the tax issue is. That's what this issue is. That's why when Nancy said the job is bigger than him, she understands how to go at his psychology. And his biggest fear right now, and he doesn't enjoy the impeachment, but it's also being exposed for what he really is. He wears a mask, he wears an outfit, he wears a character. And the real Donald Trump is getting exposed for what he's done, and that's what's driving him to the doctor.
Well, and he doesn't have control over the situation, right? There's nothing he can do in that room, and I think that's one of the reasons why he's lashing out in these.
Well, part of the problem too is that nobody has control over the situation, and that's what we saw this week in these hearings is that the Democrats want things to go in a certain direction. Some of them stay disciplined, some of them don't. And the Republicans are having to react to whatever the president is doing, so whatever strategy they have. So it's an out-of-control situation, which is going to lead to exactly what we talked about before, which is he will be impeached. There's no question he will be impeached, and he will not be removed. That's the end of the story.
The physics of politics does not change, except for what's interesting to me. Bill Clinton actually went up during the process. Donald Trump is actually inched down, and he's inching down also among Republicans, not just independents.
We're going to have to see how that plays out over the coming weeks. And I do want to bring that to Maggie. It does seem like the Democrats in the House have passed the point of no return. Hard to imagine 15 Democrats switching their vote after opening the inquiry. The big question now is going to be, how is this handled in the Senate? And you see some debate right now in the Senate between those who think let's dismiss it quickly on the Republican side and those who think they want to drag out hearing for, the trial for several weeks.
Right. I think that there is enormous confusion, as you say. I think there is also a lack of certainty coming from the White House on exactly what they want. I've heard some signals from the White House that they would like a vote to dismiss. They would like this just to be gone. They don't want to have an up or down vote. I think there are senators who are concerned about the appearance of
We should talk about the process right there. If you get 51 votes, you can dismiss, but it's no guarantee that Mitt Romney, Susan Collins, and others who are facing re-election or
Mitch McConnell has indicated there will be a trial. I think they're
but they're having a real debate about it.
He has indicated that, but he has kept his options open too.
And best believe folks like us who are going to be playing in these Senate races next year are watching really closely, and we're going to be pinning their faces to the wall. All of the vulnerable Senate Republicans who are up this
They will
coming
be
year.
the vulnerable Republicans and others who have a personal feeling towards this president, which is not warm. It's not even hot. That probably more is hot and anger. He has made their lives over the last 3 years miserable. They are not going to be able to dismiss this quickly, and it will, in the end of the day, result in a censure of the president for his action. And he, by attacking the censure, will make the censure more valuable.
You think Republicans will vote for censure in the Senate?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't.
Yes.
I don't, but I do think that they'll have a trial. I don't think there's any way, if you're a Republican in the Senate, that you can avoid a trial. Because Mitch McConnell, what does he care about the most, more than anything? Staying majority leader. And so if you've got Susan Collins and Cory Gardner and a number of other vulnerable Republicans who are coming up in the 2020 race, you have to give a trial. Because in the end, if I were McConnell, I'd say the White House is, the result is going to be the result.
But
and he's not going to give a censure.
Nobody believes what he did here. In fact, the FBI director, when you asked the question, George, of the president, the FBI director, the president's own appointee, weighed in on the idea of asking a foreign government for dirt on a political opponent and issued a judgment, not that he's a judge. Then there's no way that there are 9 Republicans who are all knowing that they can't, A, dismiss a trial and be quick with this. They are going to reach a judgment and say, this requires more than just dismissal.
I want to bring the question on that back to May, because I asked you at the beginning, you see wild cards, you see news during this time. If you're talking about a rather lengthy trial, this could be spreading out until February, maybe even March. And things are going to happen between now, February and March. There could be a court case that determines whether or not John Bolton actually should testify. The Senate could call him. You've got the associates of Rudy Giuliani who've been indicted in New York. At least one of them, Lev Parnas, seems to indicate that he wants to be cooperating with the Southern District, maybe even the Congress. So there could be new information here, with the potential, at least, to change minds.
There could be. As you say, this is all going to depend on events that fill the next couple of months, and we don't know. There's also the outstanding case of the president's tax returns and whether those get released or accessible by members of Congress or by Cy Vance, the Manhattan District Attorney. There is a lot that could happen. I also want to raise one point from yesterday, which is that there was a second in a row loss in a red state governor's race where the president openly turned it into a referendum on himself.
He was tweeting on that all day as well.
And there was, and he didn't have to make it so much about, you have to do this for me, you have to give me a win, is literally what he said. There was another option. I don't know that he's capable of the other option, but there was another way to handle it. If you're him and you're these senators and you know that he's been pressuring you for years to stick with him, do you see this result and think that maybe the voters are not as much with him as it seemed? Is there
once the curtain comes up that you don't have the mojo, that he can't do what he's supposed to do for you, your political capital shrinks dramatically, and the fear factor shrinks with it.
How does the president process Louisiana and Kentucky now?
Well, I think Kentucky's easier. I think they're both explainable, first off, having done these governor's races and been the chairman of the RGA. The first one on Bevins was that Bevins was just not a well-liked person. And when all other 5 Republicans won statewide underneath the ticket by comfortable margins, this wasn't a referendum on the president. It was a referendum on Matt Bevins, as most governor's races are. On the Louisiana race, listen, I worked with John Bel Edwards for a while. He's not a crazy liberal. Yeah, he's not a crazy liberal. He's a moderate Democrat in Louisiana.
The pro-life bill.
Right. So, you know, most incumbent governors get reelected if they don't do something to disqualify themselves.
You're whitewashing this. The fact
no,
that
it's not a whitewash.
He put his capital down. Look, we're talking about this.
Your elections, when you win, it's not about anybody else other than the candidate. No president. Come on. No president comes in and does that.
I want to make sure my mother's listening when you say that.
I did. Okay. Listen, it's about you, baby. It's all about you.
That's not the He put his capital down. He lost it.
He made it about him in 2 deeply red states that are critical for next year. Mitch McConnell should be shaking in his boots.
No, Mitch McConnell's looking at the fact that the first Republican African-American Attorney General Republican was elected
Kentucky.
statewide in Kentucky.
Because most people
by the way,
didn't know
worked
he
for
was a Republican.
Oh, okay.
biggest-
So let me understand this, Yvette.
problem.
Hold on. No, I got to finish this.
Hold on, guys. Whoa.
When somebody gets elected who's a Republican, it's because they didn't know he was a Republican. But when they lost, it's because he's a Republican. This is why people listen to stuff like
I
this
live
and
in
they shake
Ohio.
their heads.
I saw all the messages coming in my TV.
Yeah, with a Republican
biggest
governor,
election-
and a Republican
The biggest
legislature
election
in Ohio.
was Delaware County in Pennsylvania. Suburban County, 5 Republicans on the county board are up. It's the most Republican county of the 3 suburban counties. All 5 go out. And Barbara, in the Republican caucus, Virginia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Delaware County. Which one rose to the top where everybody said, took a step back and their breath came in?
Pennsylvania.
That's right.
Because
And
if you
it's
don't
a
win in the
battleground district,
and
battleground
the
state.
suburbs, if pretty consistently, if the president is over 52% disapprove, there's not a
Wipe
path
out.
to win.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.